Well, I want to welcome everybody. My name is Bruce Gilson, and I got something special inside of this case to show you. Hey, today's video is all about this big rig that we built for a touring show like a year ago. This thing's been all over the country. As you can see, it has been loved. It has been beat up, it's been abused. It's coming back into the shop for a couple of reasons. Number one, we gotta put some upgrades inside this, which we're gonna show you a preview of in a moment, but then it also just needs some love. So we'll open up the case, we'll kind of show you what state it's in right now, and then we're going to work on the build. There's a little Easter egg over here. Can you see this Easter egg? We are working with Wheel of Fortune Live. That's right, this is their video rig. It lives backstage. They've got cameras, they've got monitors everywhere, they've got puzzle boards and games and laptops, and there's so much going on inside this rig. We can't wait to just show you some of the tech details of how Wheel of Fortune Live actually runs. All right, so inside of the big box, there's already a video switcher and a video hub and everything that made this thing work for a year. But as the show has grown, they've added cameras and they've added more monitors, and their needs have grown, so it's time for an upgrade. So we're moving from a 20 by 20 into a 40 by 40 on the video hub. We're giving them some more monitors so they can reference. We're changing the switcher to an ATEM 2ME Constellation HD, so it has routable inputs and outputs, and there's a mystery box. I want to open this mystery box with you. Let's take a look. So inside this box here is not something you would typically see in an unboxing, and this isn't an unboxing video, but this is a pretty cool piece of technology. It's coming to us from Blackmagic, and they've got some, molded foam here. I've never seen Blackmagic do anything like this. Makes you know that they think that this is a pretty special piece of gear. I probably can't see me because things are getting big, but let's see what's going on underneath this. There it is. This is the 2ME Advanced Panel. The 2ME Blackmagic Advanced Panel. It connects to the switcher via Cat6, and it gives you a surface to be able to control everything for this constellation. We're gonna be adding this inside the rig as well. Let me tell you a little bit of how this build is gonna work. There's a lot that has to happen inside of a rack. We're not gonna put a camera in there. We're not gonna show you a whole lot of the details. It's also gonna happen over, I don't know, at least a week. And so you're gonna see me in different clothes come in and out. You're gonna see maybe even different people involved with trying to get this rack to the next level so it can be ready to go back out with the tour. But once we get it all hooked up and working, we're actually gonna set it up for you, let you see how some of the cameras work, let you see how the new Constellation works, and just kind of get an inside peek of what's going on backstage at Wheel of Fortune Live. So join us for the ride, here we go. All right, so let's crack it open and let's see what's going on inside here. Now I can tell you one of the big reasons that they need a upgrade is they started adding cameras and things to the show, and reaction cameras, audience cameras, stuff like that, and they didn't have enough inputs on their switcher. So the way that they solved the problem is they added an extra switcher in here. So there's a little ATEM ISO Extreme or something, a little ATEM Mini in here. That's all not a part of the original build. Obviously we got some gack here that we're gonna have to clean up. Got an extra decimator that they were using for a handheld camera. We're gonna replace that, being able to go straight into the switcher. They've got a little microconverter here that is for a new bonus camera that they added that we're gonna be able to replace going straight into the switcher. So we're gonna clean a lot of this cabling up, if you can see some of that here. All right, so let me see if I can flip this around. And this is what the front of our road case looks like. Okay, so on the desk here, we have their PTZ Optics PTZ camera controller. This is that little ATEM Mini Pro that they added to give themselves more inputs for the extra cameras that they were adding. Then they ran that over, and this is the old switcher that met the specs when they first created the show, but as the show's grown, they've added more and more things to it. And so this is what we'll be replacing as well. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna start removing all the gear that's coming out of the rack. So we're gonna remove the ATEM Mini Pro, we're gonna remove the cables associated with that, we're gonna remove the decimator and the converter, and we are also going to be removing some things that are out of the racks, and then we're gonna be replacing the stuff that's in the racks with new equipment. And then we're gonna remove this guy here, which is the switcher that's currently on board. Replace this with the advanced panel. We are going to do some bench testing on the PTZ Optics controller, make sure that it's working properly. They've been reporting a couple of little problems with it, so we might be replacing that as well once we determine what the situation of that is. And we're gonna clean this whole rack up. So we're gonna jump into that. Let's see how it goes. Jonathan, if you're watching this, I've given you some work to do in post. I don't know what I'm doing to change the cameras to anamorphic and whatever, but you should be able to crop and clean and fix and reshape and whatever. All right, no matter how long I've been in the industry, this is the point in the project where I get the most nervous. Because you see, when this thing came in, everything worked. Now, it was a jumbled mess, but it still worked because the technicians had been kind of fixing it and patching it as the tour continued until they could get it into the shop. But now that it's here in the shop, and now that we need to do upgrades, we had to remove everything. And now it's not gonna work unless I do my job right. So we've got everything taken out that no longer needs to be there. We've made room for new gear that needs to come in. We've got new gear that's gotta go in down here inside the racks. And if I turn this around, hopefully you can see here, there's some giant holes now and just a ton of cable. Now that cable is gonna be used with the new upgrade, but we have to add a ton of cable. So I had to give myself access, and I had to remove things in order to get access so that I could put the new stuff in, have room to work, and then tidy it all up again. So now we go into the fun phase of starting to add gear. So let me talk a little bit about the pieces that we're putting in here, the things that we're upgrading. The first thing is we're gonna be adding another set of duoscope monitors. That's what they've got on this side. We're gonna add that down here on the lower portion because they've added cameras, and we need to give them more reference so that they can focus their cameras and see their cameras, so we gotta add more screen. So that's what this is. We are going to give them, if you can see here, they already have one Master Control unit, the Master Control Pro. We're gonna give them a second Master Control Pro, put this in there because we've got to give them more control over their new video hub. This is the old video hub, which was a 20 by 20 video hub. They're out of room. They need more inputs. They need more outputs. So we are upgrading them into the 40 by 40. On this 40 by 40, it's gonna go in the lower section, and they're gonna be able to do some routing through the Control Pros. They can do some routing through the front of it. We're giving them lots of functionality. Another thing that we do inside the Control Pros with this particular show is we build in macros. There's a macro for load in, so they can send bars everywhere and they don't have to stress out about is everything working. They just know that bars are everywhere. If they plug in a TV, they hook it up to the video system, they turn on the power, bars should pop up. So that's a load in. They also have a macro for show, right? It's the basic setup where everything's going to where everything needs to go. But inside the show, there's different scenes, if you will. There's different flows of the show. You got the regular Wheel of Fortune action, puzzle board stuff, you've got bonus wheels and things like that. So we've given them macros to be able to punch in the different looks without having to think about where, what goes to what, to who, to when. They don't have to think about any of that. They just hit the macro button and go. So that is gonna be the 40x40 Video Hub. Now, the Video Hub also is going to be tied into a new switcher. So this is the old switcher that they had that met the specs of the show when they launched the show. As the producers have changed things, they've added more elements to it. Now they need to grow. So we're giving them a Constellation 2ME so that they can handle more cameras and they can handle more looks, which is ultimately what the show is creating. Now has an iMag screen and it's got different looks inside the iMag. So the Constellation is going to give them the ability to do that. The Constellation is a rack mounted unit. So you can see the old unit was desktop unit. Constellation is going to be rack mounted. It's going to go in here above the Video Hub. And then we got to throw in the new advanced panel. We showed you the advanced panel earlier. I'm not going to pull it out right now, but we're going to put the advanced panel on the desktop. The advanced panel is actually going to ride in a rolling case for the truck, and it's not going to live on the desk like this one did. We're going to take a little bit better care of that, although this switcher did fine. It didn't have any problems, but the advanced panel is fairly large. It kind of takes up the whole desktop. So by putting it into a rolling case, it ensures that it's going to be safe on transportation.
Several days later.
Okay, so we wanted to give you an update of how things are going with the Wheel of Fortune Live Rack. We've actually started adding gear back onto the rack. We've got our advanced panel here on the desk. We've got our ATEM Constellation 2ME in. We've got our 40x40 Video Hub in. And we've started to put the pieces together. We've added a monitor for them to be able to have extra camera views over there. We're gonna put preview and program over here. We've added some extra control. It's coming together, but the main work that we've been doing is inside the rack. Let me flip this around and we'll take a little bit of a look of where we are right now. Okay, so inside the back of the rack, that's where we've added the majority of the cable. Got a lot more SDI going in. We've added some stuff to the network switch. We're nowhere near done. We still have some terminations that need to happen. We still got some cleaning up that needs to happen inside this bay. In this bay, we've got some cables that, over time had just kind of gone everywhere. So we're gonna clean that up a little bit. We've got some power that we have to add to the rack for all the new gear. And we've got custom plates that are coming. Once we throw those custom plates in, well, you're not gonna see on the inside, but it's gonna be nice and clean on the outside. And that's really what the goal is, to make it super easy for them to use while they're on the road. All right, we got an update for you. We finally have landed our custom plate and it is in, but this is gonna be the first time that we're actually gonna turn the rig on. So I wanted you to see the custom plate, but I'm gonna flip it around. We're gonna power it up. Everything's connected to the network. We're not expecting a whole lot to turn on because we don't have any cameras hooked up. We haven't gone into any testing at this point. But what we're gonna do is fire up the rig and then I'm gonna start jumping into the software. I gotta name a lot, right? So we have a 40x40 Video Hub. We wanna make sure that the operators can use that very simply. And so I've got to go through and start naming everything inside the software. I've got to start naming everything inside the switcher. There's a lot of programming that's got to go next. So let's flip this around and then we'll power it up. Okay, the only thing that we've done with power is add some courtesy power, plug in new devices. So it shouldn't catch on fire. It shouldn't start smoking. We should be okay here. And we can see our monitors went ahead and blinked. This monitor is blinking, this monitor blinking. We got good power there. These indicators are on. We got power there, we got power there. The advanced panel is looking for an IP address, so that's a good sign. Looks like this did not power up. So I said that our camera controller didn't turn on. The Ethernet cable just wasn't seated properly. As soon as I plugged that in, PoE kicked in, and we've got an IP address, we got connectivity. And then down here, our ATEM powered up, our hub powered up, all of our Terranex powered up. Yeah, looks like it all happened. So we're gonna, spend the next several hours jumping into the software, setting everything up, giving everything its names. We also build in macros. If you're not familiar with this device, you can determine how many macro buttons you get, and then the macros, well, the device talks to your hub, and then the macros does like these automatic settings that happen inside of your hub. So this was currently set up for the old 20x20. We're gonna have to now set that up for the 40x40 to give them the macros. We talked about this in the beginning of the video. We give them a macro when they're loading in, they could just send bars to every single source. And then when they go into show mode, there's a different macro for show mode, and then there's a third macro that they use. So anyways, we have to go back in, set those up. Got a lot of work to do in software now, but at least it didn't catch on fire when we turned it on, so that's pretty positive. All right, here we are. We are finally finished with our Wheel of Fortune rig, and before we pack it up and put it on the truck and send it away to join the show, we decided we want to give you the last look of this thing set up. Now, we didn't have all the cameras of the show. We had 4 cameras. We went ahead and set those up so you can see how they work. But everything has been tested. We know that all the ports work, all the ins, all the outs, all the Cat6, all the SDI. It's all working great. It's been a pretty exciting build, but it's been a long process. We budgeted 50 man hours, and we have used every ounce of that, if maybe not just a little bit more than that, but it's been good process. So things that we've done since the last update, we did a lot of programming where we set up our advanced panel. We've got all of our inputs and outputs labeled so the operators have no confusion in what's going on. We decided to name the big one Bowser. We named the small one Peach. And you might be thinking to yourself, why is the small one on the desk? Well, they're doing an interesting thing. Live production, you don't want to rely on one piece of gear, and if it goes down, you're toast, right? You don't want that. So what they've decided with this upgrade is that they are going to run the show off the new panel, but if anything were to happen with the new panel, they still have the old panel as a backup. And not only do they have the old panel as a backup, but it is running in redundancy. Now, it doesn't have all of the ability that the new panel has, but it could get them through a show if they have to get through a show. So that panel is still fully connected. Everything is running to the hub, and if they need to jump over to that, they can. On top of that, the old video hub is right here. Now, it's not connected, but it's right here. If they were to have a problem with the new video hub, they could limp through a show with the old hub until they were able to figure out what's going on with the new hub. On top of that, this control panel right here is the old panel that used to control the old hub. Well, it controls the new hub, but only the first half, the same way that it used to control the old hub, the first 20x20. So they've got all their inputs, they got all their outputs, and they got all their macros. All those macros work to the old panel. And then when they're ready to jump into Bowser over here, they've actually got a new control panel. New control panel, we've got the macros set up. We've got everything labeled on the interior so that they can toggle through on their wheels. It's ready to go. And the macros, if they hit those, it sends the show into Bowser mode on this one. And if they hit the macros over there, it sets the show into Peach mode. Super simple for them to be able to make that swap if they need to. This has been a fun build, and I'm glad you took this journey with us. Now, we gotta pack this thing up and we gotta send it away so that they can do Wheel of Fortune live. It's a great show, it's a lot of fun. It's very much like the TV show that you're used to watching at your house where they shoot it in a studio, but this time it's live. It's a lot of activity. There's an MC, there's cameras that catch the action of people coming out of the audience. You get to do little puzzles to get yourself on stage. It's a good time. If it's coming in your area, you should check it out. And now you've had a behind the scenes look. You know what kind of technology is making that whole thing happen. There are some secrets that we can't reveal, but it's a great show. We encourage you to go see Wheel of Fortune live. We also want you to hit like and subscribe. If you've got any questions of something that you are interested in that I didn't totally cover, send me a comment. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks for watching. Can't wait to see you next time.